laying aside all private interests, prejudice, and partial affections, the result of all our counsel may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety and honor and happiness of the King, the public will, peace, and tranquility of St. Lucia, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in the true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. The grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all forevermore. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good morning, honorable members. I beg to announce that His Excellency the Governor General has been pleased to assent the following bills. Agreements on the Series C Ordinary Capital Share Subscription and Immunities, Exemptions and Privileges. St. Lucia Unplanned Development Regularization Authority. The Public Procurement Amendment, Income Tax Amendment, and the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment. I wish to also advise of the absence of the members for Castries South, Vieux-Fort North, Castries Central, Ancillary Canaries, Babonneau, and Micoud South. I also wish to inform members of a parliamentary workshop scheduled for 13th to 15th of May 2026. The workshop, delivered in partnership with the United Kingdom branch of the CPA, will focus on key aspects of parliamentary practice, including parliamentary privileges, the role of the Speaker, standing orders, balancing ministerial and constituency responsibilities, and expectations of new and returning members. A delegation from the United Kingdom Parliament, comprising 4 members of the House of Commons and a clerk, will participate in and contribute to the sessions. This workshop presents an important opportunity for members to strengthen the understanding of parliamentary procedures, enhance their effectiveness in office, and to share experiences with colleagues. I urge all members, I strongly encourage you to attend and to actively participate. Further details will be provided by the Office of the Clerk. Statement by ministers. Papers to be laid. Minister for Infrastructure, Port Services and Energy.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers standing in the name of the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Justice, National Security, Constituency Development and People Empowerment. Statutory Instrument number 39 of 2026, Legal Professions Eligibility, Chanel Ada Williams Order. Statutory Instrument number 41 of 2026, Tourism Development Chateau Civil Inc. Order. Statutory Instrument number 42 of 2026, Tourism Development J&C Estates and Developers Limited Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument number 43 of 2026, Tourism Development JYR Inc. Order. Statutory Instrument number 44 of 2026, Tourism Development Mystic Mentors Limited Order. Statutory Instrument number 47 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act Resolution of Parliament to invest in the International Finance Corporation. Statutory Instrument Number 48 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital or current expenditure, Section 1 of the Sir Julian R. Hunt Highway Project. Statutory Instrument Number 49 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital or current expenditure, expansion of the Sir Julian R. Hunt Highway Project. Statutory Instrument Number 50 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act, Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital or current expenditure, rehabilitation and upgrade of the Feebles water supply system. Statutory Instrument Number 51 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act, Resolution of Parliament to authorize the Minister of Finance to guarantee borrowing by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority for reconstruction of Berth 4 at Port Castries. Statutory Instrument Number 52 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act, Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital and current expenditure, additional loan to finance the Pasnias Community Water Supply Project, amended loan agreement. Statutory Instrument Number 53 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act, Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital or current expenditure to finance the implementation of national development projects, initiatives, and COVID-19 mitigation measures. Statutory Instrument Number 54 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act, Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital or current expenditure, Program for Education Realignment and Transformation Project. Statutory Instrument Number 55 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act, Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital expenditure, additional loan for Millennium Highway and West Coast Road Reconstruction Project, amended loan agreement. Statutory Instrument Number 56 of 2025, Public Finance Management Act, Resolution of Parliament to borrow for capital or current expenditure to finance the John Compton Dam Raw Water Pipeline Replacement Project, the 9th Water Project. Statutory Instrument Number 78 of 2026, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1, Number 5 Order. Statutory Instrument Number 79 of 2026, Insolvency Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 80 of 2026, Legal Professions Eligibility. Angelia Faith Nanan Order. Report of the Director of Audit on the financial statements of the Government of St. Lucia for the year ended March 31st, 2012. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to lay the following papers standing in the name of the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Tourism, Commerce, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture, and Heritage. Statutory Instrument Number 57 of 2025, Citizenship by Investment Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 68 of 2026, Tourism Development, Sabina Ladies Cab Order. Statutory Instrument Number 69 of 2026, Tourism Development, Sandscape Travel Club Limited Order. Statutory Instrument Number 70 of 2026, Tourism Development, Joseph Alberti Honest Taxi. Statutory Instrument Number 71 of 2026, Tourism Development, Al Dente Limited Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument Number 72 of 2026, Tourism Development, Dashville Holdings Incorporated Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument Number 73 of 2026, Tourism Development, Le Sports and Lucia Limited Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument Number 74 of 2026, Tourism Development, Precipice Inc. Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument Number 75 of 2026, Tourism Development, Windjammer Landing Company Limited Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument Number 76 of 2026, Community Tourism Development, Appointment of the Board of the Community Tourism Agency Notice. Statutory Instrument Number 77 of 2026, Price Control Amendment Number 5 Order. Citizenship by Investment, St. Lucia Annual Report 2024 to 2025.
Minister for Equity, Social Justice, Gender, Older Persons, Labor, Cooperatives, and Consumer Welfare.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper appearing in my name. Statutory Instrument Number 40 of 2026, Labor, Exemption from the Payment of Work Permit Fees, $5, Investment Inc., Order.
Minister for Education, Youth Development, Sports, and Digital Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to lay the following papers standing in my name. Statutory Instrument Number 45, 2026, Accreditation Amendment of Schedule 2 Order. Statutory Instrument Number 46 of 2026, Offshore Higher Education Licensing and Incentive Amendment of Schedule 1 Order.
Senior Minister and Minister for the Public Service, Transport, Information and Utilities Regulation.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers standing in the name of the Minister for Health, Wellness and Nutrition. Statutory Instrument Number 58 of 2026, Public Health, Offensive and Hazardous Trades Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 59 of 2026, Public Health, Sewage and Disposal of Sewage and Liquid Industrial Waste Works Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 60 of 2026, Public Health, Slaughterhouse Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 61 of 2026, Public Health Swimming Pools Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 62 of 2026, Public Health Water Quality Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 63 of 2026, Public Health Body Art Facility Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 64 of 2026, Public Health Foods Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 65 of 2026, Public Health, Apartments, Guest Houses and Hotels Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 66 of 2026, Public Health, Bakeries Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 67 of 2026, Public Health, Barber Amendment.
Bills, Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to present for first reading a bill shortly entitled Anti-Terrorism Amendment.
Anti-Terrorism Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order Number 48-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Honourable members, the question is that Standing Order 48-2 be suspended in order to allow the Attorney General to take this bill through all of its remaining stages. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Please proceed, Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the Anti-Terrorism Bill Amendment, Bill 2026, the bill, is to amend the Anti-Terrorism Act, Chapter 3.16, the Act, to strengthen St. Lucia's legal framework for combating terrorism and terrorism financing, modernize key provisions, and ensure compliance with international obligations, particularly those arising under the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, recommendations. The Act was enacted to give effect to international obligations, including the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1373, which requires countries to take measures to prevent and suppress the financing of terrorism. In the 2021 Mutual Evaluation Report, St. Lucia was assessed as non-compliant with FATF Recommendation 6, which requires the implementation of targeted financial sanctions without delay. This highlighted deficiencies in the timeliness of action clarity of institutional responsibilities and enforcement. The current legislative framework presents the following challenges to fully meet international standards and respond effectively to emerging threats. Number one, the absence of a clearly defined requirement for immediate action in response to suspected terrorist activity. Two, unclear allocation of responsibilities among competent authorities, leading to inefficiencies in implementation. Three, limited operational capacity for real-time enforcement, particularly in urgent situations requiring the freezing of funds. And four, gaps in procedural clarity affecting the fairness and effectiveness of review processes. The bill introduces key measures to address these deficiencies. The bill amends the interpretation section of the Act to introduce a definition of without delay, thereby embedding the principle of immediacy in the legislative framework. This reinforces the obligation of competent authorities to act swiftly where there are reasonable grounds to suspect terrorist activity. Additionally, the bill imposes a requirement on the Attorney General to act within 48 hours when submitting proposals for the listing of entities under relevant international sanctions regimes. The bill revises the definition of competent authority to include a broader range of relevant institutions, including regulatory and enforcement bodies. A key feature of the bill is the reallocation of certain investigative and operational responsibilities from the Financial Intelligence Authority to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. This shift improves operational efficiency and coordination. The bill strengthens provisions relating to the freezing of funds, particularly in cases of urgency. It vests the Royal St. Lucia Police Force with authority to exercise freezing powers in extreme circumstances, ensuring that immediate threats can be addressed promptly by the appropriate enforcement body. The bill introduces amendments to clarify procedural requirements in relation to applications for the review of freezing orders. In particular, it requires that documents in such proceedings be properly served on the relevant parties, thereby ensuring fairness and transparency in the review process. The bill amends existing provisions to the duty to disclose information by explicitly including the financing of terrorism. The bill will significantly enhance St. Lucia's ability to respond to terrorism and terrorist financing by 1, ensuring timely implementation of targeted financial sanctions, 2, improving coordination among competent authorities, 3, strengthening enforcement capacity through the involvement of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and 4, aligning the legislative framework with international standards, particularly those of the FATF. Mr. Speaker, the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill 2026 represents a critical step in strengthening St. Lucia's national security framework and ensuring compliance with international standards. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill be read a second time. Member for Labrie.
Yes, I'm speaking again, so this will see because we come up with a Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in full support of the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill 2026, a critical and timely piece of legislation, Mr. Speaker, that in my soundness of judgment strengthens St. Lucia's capacity to respond decisively to the evolving threat of terrorism and its financing. At the outset, Mr. Speaker, let me commend the Honorable Attorney General and all agencies involved in the preparation of this bill. It reflects not only sound legal drafting, but also a deep appreciation of the realities of modern global security. Mr. Speaker, terrorism today is not confined by geography. It has a certain degree of fluidity. It's transnational and increasingly sophisticated. But equally important, Mr. Speaker, the global fight against terrorism is no longer judged only by intent. It is measured by compliance, speed, and effectiveness. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia, like all other Caribbean nations, operate within a very demanding international framework shaped by the Financial Action Task Force and our regional body, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. These bodies do not merely set standards, they assess, monitor, and publicly report on our performance. Mr. Speaker, we all know the consequences of falling short. Across the Caribbean, jurisdictions that have been deemed deficient have faced grey listing, which increases scrutiny on financial transactions, loss of correspondent banking relationships, commonly referred to as de-risking, higher cost of doing business, and reputational damage that affects investment, tourism, and trade. We have seen this happen to sister Caribbean states. We have felt the pressure ourselves, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, this bill is not just about security. It is about economic survival, financial stability, and international credibility. Mr. Speaker, one of the most important aspects of this bill is its alignment with international standards as accentuated by the Attorney General. The updated definition of the 1267 list ensures that St. Lucia remains fully compliant with United Nations Security Council sanctions regime. Additionally, the requirement for the Attorney General to act within 48 hours when proposing listings to international bodies directly addresses one of the key concerns raised in the FATF and CFATF evaluations: timeliness in implementing targeted financial sanctions. This is critical, Mr. Speaker. Under FATF Recommendation 6, countries must demonstrate the ability to act without delay. This bill explicitly defines and operationalizes that urgency, Mr. Speaker. In doing so, we close gaps that could otherwise expose St. Lucia to adverse evaluation outcomes. Mr. Speaker, the bill also strengthens coordination across institutions by expanding the definition of competent authority, and I agree with the Attorney General, Mr. Speaker, to include regional regulators and key national agencies, including the ministry responsible for external affairs. This is particularly important in the context of CFATF mutual evaluations, which consistently emphasize interagency coordination, information sharing, and whole-of-government responses, Mr. Speaker. As Minister responsible for external affairs, I welcome this inclusion. Our ministry plays a critical role in engaging international partners, responding to evaluation findings, and ensuring that St. Lucia's voice and interest are effectively represented in global fora. Mr. Speaker, let us speak plainly. The Caribbean has been under sustained pressure from international financial systems. The phenomenon of de-risking, where global banks withdraw services from smaller jurisdictions, has been linked directly to concerns about anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing frameworks. But CFATF has repeatedly highlighted deficiencies in areas such as delays in listing and delisting terrorist entities, weak enforcement mechanisms, and insufficient use of law enforcement powers. This bill directly addresses those concerns, Mr. Speaker, by empowering the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and I love that. That was music to my ears, Mr. Attorney General, with greater responsibility for investigations, reporting, and urgent freezing of funds. We ensure that St. Lucia can act decisively and demonstrate effectiveness, not just compliance on paper, but real operational capacity. Mr. Speaker, the explicit inclusion of the financing of terrorism within disclosure obligations is another critical step. FATF and CFATF assessments place heavy emphasis on a country's ability to detect, disrupt, and prosecute terrorist financing. Failure in this area is one of the fastest routes to grey listing. Now, you know, Mr. Speaker, in this world, we are always considered wavet Liverpool. Any opportunity anybody gets to find something wrong, they will blacklist and grey list and do all types of things to us. And therefore, we need to be proactive to ensure that we put mechanisms in place that are robust enough to deter people from imposing sanctions on us. And this amendment strengthens our financial intelligence framework and ensures that we are better equipped to meet these expectations. Mr. Speaker, even as we strengthen our enforcement framework, we remain committed to fairness and due process. The amendments clarifying service of documents in review proceedings ensure that individuals and entities are treated justly. This balance is essential, Mr. Speaker. It reflects the democratic values that underpin our legal system. Mr. Speaker, this bill must be understood not in isolation, but as part of St. Lucia's broader strategy to safeguard our financial system, maintain correspondent banking relationships, protect our international reputation, and ensure continued access to global markets. It is about resilience in a world where small states are often judged by standards we did not create, but must nonetheless meet. Mr. Speaker, as I prepare to close, and by way of general conclusion, I want to just indicate that this is a forward-looking, necessary, and strategic amendment. It aligns St. Lucia with FATF standards. It responds directly to CFATF expectations. It mitigates the risk of de-risking and grey listing, and it strengthens our national security framework as clearly articulated and accentuated by the Attorney General. For these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly support the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill 2026 and urge my colleagues to do the same, Mr. Speaker. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, there's nothing further I could add in relation to this. I presented the bill. My learned friend, honourable member, made a very good presentation, and I thank colleagues for supporting the bill. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is that the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Anti-Terrorism Act, Chapter 3.16.
Clause 1, Clause 2, sorry.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Amendment of Section 2.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Amendment of Section 3.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Amendment of Section 3A.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Clause 6.
Amendment of Section 3B.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Clause 7.
Amendment of Section 22E.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill. Clause 8.
Amendment of Section 22H.
Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 9. Attorney General. Sorry, go ahead.
Amendment of Section 32.
Attorney General.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, if I may, in relation to the amendment at E, paragraph E, I'd like to add the words, any information regarding, and continue with the financing of terrorism. So I want to add any information regarding the to what's present here. Thank you.
Members, the question is that at subsection E of clause 9, the following words, any information regarding, be added before the financing of terrorism. And now for the question, as many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clause 9, as amended, stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Aye. Honourable members, the question is that the committee rises and the bill be reported. I now put the question, as many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honourable members, I beg to report that the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill went through committee stage with an amendment to Clause 9. AG?
Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Honourable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question, as many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the King's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This Act may be cited as the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Act 2026.
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to present for first reading a bill shortly entitled United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment.
United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order number 48-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Honourable members, the question is that Standing Order 48-2 be suspended in order to allow the Attorney General to have this bill through all of its remaining stages at this sitting. And now put the question, as many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Please proceed, Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill before this Honourable House amends the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Act, Chapter 12.30, the Act, to allow for the appointment of alternate members on the National Coordinating Committee on Counter-Proliferation the National Committee in the absence of a member. The bill also amends the Act to provide that if a member or his or her alternate is absent from 3 consecutive meetings of the National Committee without presenting a medical certificate or being excused by the chairperson, then a vacancy exists, and in which case Cabinet will appoint another person to fill that vacancy for the unexpired portion of the term of the member. Furthermore, an alternate member will be recognized having the same rights to be paid for travel and other expenses that he or she may incur in connection with exercising his or her duties under the National Committee. Brief amendments to this particular bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment Bill be read a second time. The member for Labrie.
Thank you very much. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for granting me leave to make a very brief intervention on the bill before us. So, Mr. Speaker, it is almost superfluous to add that I take the floor to offer my unbridled support for the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment Bill 2026. Again, Mr. Speaker, as I set my response in motion, let me commend the Honorable Attorney General and all stakeholders who contributed to this bill. While its provisions, Mr. Speaker, may appear largely administrative, its significance is profound. It strengthens the institutional framework that underpins St. Lucia's compliance with international obligations in the area of counter-proliferation financing. Mr. Speaker, as I alluded to a few moments ago, we live in an era where global security threats extend beyond terrorism to include the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the networks that finance them. The international community, through the United Nations Security Council, has established binding sanction regimes to combat these threats. Compliance is not optional, it is mandatory. Moreover, through the FATF and the CFATF, countries are assessed on their ability to implement targeted financial sanctions related not only to terrorism, but also to proliferation financing. This is captured on the FATF Recommendation 7. Mr. Speaker, failure in this area carries serious consequences, as we saw when we gave careful and sensible treatment to the bill that we just had before this Honorable House and was placed for the consideration of honorable members. Increased international scrutiny, risk of grey listing, pressure on correspondent banking relationships, and reputational damage that can undermine investor confidence. Therefore, even amendments that strengthen governance arrangements are of strategic importance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at the heart of the bill is the strengthening of the National Coordinating Committee on Counter-Proliferation Financing. The amendments ensure that each member of the committee has an alternate who can act in their presence, in the absence, Mr. Speaker, thereby guaranteeing continuity in decision-making and operations. So we cannot say that a member is absent and there is nothing we can do because it's cast in stone. It gives the necessary flexibility, Mr. Speaker. This is a practical and necessary reform. CFATF evaluations consistently identify weaknesses where national mechanisms are not fully functional due to, one, irregular meetings. You might have absenteeism, or lack of representation. By formalizing the role of alternates, this bill ensures that St. Lucia's coordinating mechanism remains active, responsive, and effective at all times. It ensures that it does not hibernate from time to time or move into a state of inertia. We cannot afford that. We must be on the move, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill also introduces provisions to address attendance and accountability. A vacancy will now arise where a member or alternate is absent from 3 consecutive meetings without valid justification. This is an important governance measure. It sends a clear message that participation in this committee is not ceremonial. This is not Laos, Mr. Speaker. It is essential to national security and international compliance. Further, the bill empowers Cabinet to appoint replacements where vacancies occur, ensuring that the committee remains fully constituted and operational, Mr. Speaker. That's a step in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, the amendments also clarify that alternates are to be treated as members for the purposes of participation and expenses. That's important. That those alternates are not treated as mere appendages to the affairs of the committee, but as legitimate partners, legitimate members to take legitimate decisions whenever necessary. This seemingly small adjustment removes ambiguity and supports the effective functioning of the committee. It ensures that individuals acting in these roles are properly recognized and supported in carrying out their duties. Mr. Speaker, allow me to place this bill squarely within the context of FATF and CFATF expectations. One of the critical areas of assessment is the effectiveness of national coordination mechanisms in implementing sanctions regimes. It is not enough to have laws on the books, Mr. Speaker. Countries must demonstrate active coordination among agencies, timely decision-making, and the ability to implement sanctions without delay, almost with lightning rapidity, Mr. Speaker. It ensures that St. Lucia can demonstrate not just technical compliance, but operational effectiveness, which is the true test on the modern FATF methodology, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for small island developing states like ours, these issues are not abstract. They affect our access to international financial systems, the stability of our banking sector, our attractiveness as a destination for investment. As you know, Mr. Speaker, there are many factors that would qualify a country to attract foreign direct investment. And as we know, foreign direct investment is very important for us to grow the economy, for us to reduce unemployment, and for us to do a number of other things on the social level, including reducing poverty. And therefore, we must always do everything necessary to make our jurisdiction attractive for foreign direct investment. And ultimately, the livelihoods of our people. Because the mantra of this administration, the Philip J.P. administration, is all the economics, all the emphasis on ensuring a stable macroeconomic framework, to ensure the quality of expenditure, to ensure we reduce the possibility of being sanctions, is to give us the fiscal space to maneuver, to take care of our people, Mr. Speaker. That's what all this exercise is about. Whether we come here, we have a good policy, but we come here to amend legislation or to pass new legislation. Because even good policies could be frustrated by poor legislation. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is absolutely necessary that all the positive conditions conspire to precipitate an improved framework for us to deliver to the people of the country. We have seen across the Caribbean again, Mr. Speaker, the consequences of deficiencies in this framework. Countries facing grey listing, increased transaction costs, and reduced access to global financial networks. And in many respects, the international financial system has been very oppressive to small island developing states like ours. This bill is part of our proactive effort to ensure that St. Lucia remains compliant, credible, and competitive. So again, by way of general conclusion, Mr. Speaker, and I promise to be brief, and I maintain my fidelity to my words, my promises, and therefore this amendment bill strengthens governance, improves accountability, and enhances the effectiveness of a critical national mechanism. It aligns St. Lucia with international standards. Again, it responds to CFATF evaluation priorities, and it safeguards our national and economic security. Mr. Speaker, I conclude by again giving my unbridled support to the bill. I now yield the floor, Mr. Speaker. Muchas gracias.
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I thank honourable members for the support to this amendment. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is that the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Act, Chapter 12.30.
Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Amendment of Section 3.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Amendment of Section 8.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Substitution of Section 9.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Clause 6.
Amendment of Section 11.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Honourable members, the question is that the committee rises and the report and the bill be reported. I now put a question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honourable members, I beg to report that the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment Bill went through committee stage without amendments. Honourable Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Honourable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the King's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the United Nations Sanctions Counter-Proliferation Financing Amendment Act 2026.
Minister for Home Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to present for first reading a bill shortly entitled Criminal Records, Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment.
Criminal Records, Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the suspension of Standing Order number 48-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Honourable members, the question is that Standing Order 48-2 be suspended in order to allow the Minister for Home Affairs to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Please proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill amends the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, Chapter 3.13. And as a result of the enactment, Parliament provides a mechanism for certain criminal convictions of offenders, Mr. Speaker, to become spent and expunged from the records. However, on conducting an assessment of the Act, it was observed that there are important areas of the Act, Mr. Speaker, which needs to be modified in order to make the Act more effective, more responsive in fulfilling its legislative and policy mandate. Mr. Speaker, the Act includes a provision for the payment of fees in support of an application for the expungement of records of conviction to assist in supporting the administrative operations of Rehabilitation of Offenders Board. And you would understand, Mr. Speaker, all too well that there is a cost implication in terms of running the administrative affairs of the board. And now, with the amendment, the Act now allows for provision for the payment of fees in support of an application of the expungement. It also allows for change of name of the board from the Rehabilitation of Offenders Board to the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Board. And what it does, Mr. Speaker, this change is necessary as it ensures that the name of the board is now consistent with its purpose, which is to consider an application by a rehabilitated person for the expungement of the records of conviction, as opposed to actually engaging in the rehabilitation of offenders. So right now, the name of the board is more aligned with what the purpose of the board is. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, it is proposed that provision be made for a person who has committed more than one offense prior to the rehabilitation period to be treated as a rehabilitated person, particularly where the last offense was committed many years before the rehabilitation period. Before that, Mr. Speaker, it made it very difficult, under the circumstances before today, it made it very difficult for someone who had committed an offense many years before and who probably had a second offense to come before the board to ask for their records to be revisited and for it to be expunged. The bill contains some 11 clauses, and clause 3 and 5 of the bill provides for the change of name, the Act to change the name of the board. Clause 4 of the bill amends the Act to remove the requirement for the conviction of a person to be the first conviction, as I would have previously stated, in order for that person to be treated as a rehabilitated person. And under clause 7 of the bill, the Act is amended to make provisions for the payment of a fee in support of an application for the expungement from the records of conviction. Clause 7 of the bill further amends the Act to provide for a person to make an application to the board for the expungement from the records of conviction on an expedited basis. And Mr. Speaker, you'd understand why somebody may need the expungement expedited. You have instances where a young man from, let's say, Labrie or from Denry Valley, Mr. Speaker, who probably may have find themselves in problems with the law and may have probably have a minor infraction, Mr. Speaker, and that person may be presented with an opportunity to work on a cruise ship. And you know, Mr. Speaker, there are timelines associated with these opportunities. So that person gets an opportunity to work on a cruise ship and they must submit all their documents by a certain date. But if we do not put in this provision, that person may have to wait for an extended period of time, which may allow that opportunity to just pass them by, and then now, I mean, for the rest of their lives, they allow an opportunity that would have changed their entire life to pass them by. So we've put in a provision to allow for the expedited, for them to expedite the
expungement, Mr. Speaker. There is also in Clause 8 of the bill, it amends the Act to provide for reapplication. So if you apply and you did... Mr. Speaker, I ask that the member for Denry North leave me alone, Mr. Speaker, and allow me...
I was about to suggest that myself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, what this provision does, there is a possibility that somebody may apply and their application may get rejected. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is the end of the road. This person is now allowed, with this new provision, an opportunity to reapply to the board to see whether or not they can probably get a second opinion. And by virtue of clauses 9 and 10 of the bill, the Act is also amended to remove an erroneous reference to a section of the Act and give the Minister the power to exempt a person from the payment of a fee under the Act. Clause 11 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, repeals Schedule 4 of the Act, which provides for the form of an application for the expungement from the records of conviction. It is intended that after the enactment of the bill, the form for an application for the expungement from records of conviction will be provided for in the regulations with all other forms and fees that are relevant to the Act. Mr. Speaker, Parliament must therefore, I ask that we must pass the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill to give effect to the amendments. But Mr. Speaker, you would allow me to just digress just slightly. You would agree with me that, I mean, given the complexity and the multidimensional nature of crime and criminality, that we cannot deal with crime prevention measures in isolation. So today we are here dealing with one particular measure, but we cannot look at it in isolation. We must have a multidimensional approach when we deal with crime prevention. And yes, today we are here dealing with the expungement, and I know that is a very important amendment because even from evidence from my office, we have people coming in every now and then because they encounter challenges as it relates to the board and getting the applications processed. Hopefully, after we have made these amendments, it would simplify the process by which these individuals, or the process which these individuals have to go through to get their records expunged. Now, Mr. Speaker, more than just thinking of reintegration and thinking of expunging of criminal records, we have a situation whereby Prime Minister, as part of our broader mandate as a government, has made it clear in his pronouncement that we must place some serious emphasis on crime prevention and crime reduction in this country. And we are putting several initiatives in place and policies in place to help guide that particular policy. Under the Ministry of Equity, I think we have re-established the Community After School Program. And that is part, it is intended to serve as a deterrent, allow or provide alternatives to young people, give them a real chance at life so that we understand the vulnerability of society, we understand how easy it is for it to be swayed in a particular direction. And an initiative such as that is to help young men, young women, give them a real opportunity, give them something that they can go to after school. So we understand some parents have to go to work and they work some strange hours. But what the Community After School Program does, it allows parents an opportunity to send their children somewhere that they know their children are safe, their children are going to be engaged in programs that's going to cause for their holistic development. We have the Community Reintegration Program. And as I speak about the Community Reintegration Program, I think it's important, Mr. Speaker, that I bring to this Honorable House something which happened last week, Thursday. Last week, Thursday, Mr. Speaker, we had 20 plus former inmates graduate from a community reintegration program from the Bodley Correctional Facility. And what that program entails is these inmates went through a program where they were given counseling, they were provided with psychosocial support, they were provided with career guidance and job placements, and 87.5% of the individuals who were placed through this program, Mr. Speaker, we can say were successful. Most of them either are already working, or those who did not go to work for various establishments, what happened is that they were able to, with the assistance of the probation officer and the other individuals, the social workers, the other individuals who were involved in the program, they were able to get them to benefit from the Youth Economy Agency, and they qualified and were able to get grants. And we have one gentleman who is a beneficiary of the MSME loan grant facility
and he has opened his own scrap metal business and is now exporting scrap metal overseas and is employing other inmates. So these success stories, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that people are made aware of what it is, because usually what happens is that once you go to the Borderley Correctional Facility, there's a stigma attached to the Borderley Correctional Facility. People treat you, and that is why we must call on family members. We must make a special plea to family members to provide these inmates upon release with the support that they need, because they look for somebody to fall back on. They look for somebody to have some faith in them. But usually it is not the case. We operate in a society, in a country where once you find yourself behind bars, it can be on remand or you can be convicted. Once you release, there's a certain stigma attached to you. That's a misayla, a jailbird. That is the type of language that is associated with people who have gone to the Borderley Correctional Facility. We need to redefine that. We need to reshape that. Our mindsets, the culture that we have here, Mr. Speaker, we really need to change it. We need to be a little more receptive. I'm not saying that the Borderley Correctional Facility should be somewhere that we glorify. There is a place in society for prison. If you commit an offense, yes, you must be incarcerated if you're found guilty. But at the same time, it does not mean that this is the end of the road, that your life has come to a complete halt now, or your life has come to an end because you have gone to the Borderley Correctional Facility. And it is from this basis, Mr. Speaker, what we've done at the Borderley Correctional Facility is to now, we've done a comprehensive assessment of what happens at the Borderley Correctional Facility, and we're now focusing a little more on the rehabilitative component and a little less on the punitive component of the prison, so that individuals who go there can actually be rehabilitated. The prison can serve the purpose that it was intended to serve. And hopefully we can see more individuals coming from the prison rehabilitated and properly reintegrated into society. And the amendments that we are doing here today is one step in that way, because what we realize is sometimes individuals go to prison. You put them through a program, everything works well. But what happens is that they have a blemish. There's a blemish on their character. So even if they went for a program, a rehabilitation program at a prison, when you are released, if you go for your certificate of character, automatically it will show that you were incarcerated for, or you have a conviction. And what it does now is, as much as the program may have worked well for you, as much as you may have a renewed mindset, because of this blemish, it makes it difficult now for you to find yourself in the world of work. You go to a place of employment, you go to a business place, anywhere in the private sector, and one of the prerequisites that they ask for before employing you is, can we see your certificate of character? And when you provide a certificate of character and it shows that you were arrested some time ago for possession of controlled drugs, let's say, for example, automatically you're almost disqualified. And what message are we sending to these individuals? What's the point of putting you through a program? The program was successful, but because of a blemish on your character, you're no longer able to be employed in this country. And that is why we're also going to call, up to this morning I spoke to the Minister of Commerce to tell him that we need to engage the business community so that they too can be part of what it is that we're trying, the broader initiative, what it is that we're trying. They too can accept the certificate that we provide these individuals upon completion, to say that there's what, okay, these individuals, yes, they may have a blemish on their character, but they would have gone for a certain program that would have allowed them to be rehabilitated, to have a change of heart, and hopefully we can see a lower rate of recidivism in this country, Mr. Speaker. So with these few things said, Mr. Speaker, and we've done, I just want to just touch on a few things that we've been doing, Mr. Speaker. We understand that crime is inevitable, but we also understand that if you have the proper policy and programs in place, that you can help curb crime as much as you can. And what we've done, I think with the Ministry of Education, we've employed attendance officers to help reduce the truancy rates at the schools, so that we can provide from very early the necessary support and assistance to young people who, when we pick them up or when we detect from very early that there are certain issues with them, we can do the necessary interventions at that stage, thereby giving them an opportunity before the other people, I would call them, quote unquote, in society, give them an opportunity. So we have increased the number of attendance officers at the school. I know that also under the Ministry of Equity, working in collaboration with the Ministry of Home Affairs and Crime Prevention, there is a provision for a juvenile rehabilitation center. Hopefully we will see that come to fruition very soon. There's a Catalyst project, and this is a project aimed at, an initiative aimed at enhancing the employability of at-risk youth, young men, especially between the ages of 18 to 25. So, Mr. Speaker, there is a myriad of initiatives and policies that this government has embarked on to help provide opportunities to individuals so that they don't necessarily have to go down the life of crime. We understand that it's going to be difficult. We understand that it's multidimensional, but we are putting our best foot forward, and we are doing, and hopefully during the appropriation debate, Mr. Speaker, I'll be in a position to provide this honorable House with a more comprehensive report of what it is that we're doing as a ministry and as a government as it relates to crime prevention. So I want to encourage members to support the amendments before the House this morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill be read a second time. Member for Labrie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I promise to be brief. Certainly, I take the floor to offer my reflections on the bill, Mr. Speaker, and want to align with the presentation of the Honorable Minister for Home Affairs, Crime Prevention, Conflict Resolution, and Persons with Disabilities. I believe that he provided a useful framework for us to consider our deliberations on this very important piece of legislation. And as I listened to the minister, I could not help but reflect a bit on the Philip J. Pierre administration. Progressive fiscal policies, good financial management of the country, good expenditure policies, and of course, it will also be recognized as one engaged in passing progressive legislation in this House. Because an important aspect of setting in motion policies properly is to have a good legislative framework. And so I am very happy, Mr. Speaker, and I think this is a very proud moment for this administration. And I say so, Mr. Speaker, because it is really a bill that speaks not only to law, but to justice, fairness, and the dignity of our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at the heart of the bill is a simple but powerful principle that individuals who have paid their debt to society must be given a fair opportunity to rebuild their lives. Too often, I meet young men who probably many years ago had a piece of marijuana smoking. I don't smoke and I don't consume alcohol, so I'm not going to make a case for anybody to smoke. But because of that, they have a record. But the environment that we're in, and in some cases that the parents overseas, and the parents file for them, and they have a record here. For what? As a very young man, a young boy, in fact, who just smoked a little marijuana, and his life has suddenly ended. And where the mother is, they can smoke marijuana. But he has a record here for smoking marijuana at a very tender age. And even while he exists today, he does not smoke marijuana anymore. But he has that record. And this is why I believe that we are maturing as a society and as a government, Mr. Speaker. Our justice system is not only about punishment, it is about rehabilitation. Yet too often, a criminal record becomes a lifelong barrier. A barrier to employment, a barrier to education, a barrier to travel, and ultimately, a barrier to full participation in society. This is unfair, Mr. Speaker. And we are engaged in an exercise. We are engaged in a common and conscious endeavor to create an improved framework for our people to be able to survive establish law and order in our country, but at the same time, we do not judge people permanently. This bill seeks to remove unnecessary obstacles and to create a more just, humane, and practical framework for our rehabilitation. Mr. Speaker, one of the most progressive elements of this bill is that it allows individuals who have been convicted of more than one offense, to still be considered for rehabilitation. Once they have satisfied the conditions of the sentences. This is a significant and compassionate reform. It recognizes that people are not defined by a single moment or even multiple mistakes, but by their willingness to change, to comply with the law, and to move forward, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill also introduces a more efficient and responsive system for removing those criminal records, Mr. Speaker. Applications will now be required in a prescribed form, include a prescribed fee, and importantly, may be considered on an expedited basis in urgent circumstances. This is good. Very good thinking, Mr. Speaker. This is critical because opportunity does not wait. A job offer may depend on a clean record. A scholarship may have a deadline. A visa application may require immediate clearance. This bill allows individuals to apply for expedited expungement for purposes such as employment, education, immigration, medical needs, and other justified circumstances. So whilst the bill has a certain degree of rigidity, it has a certain degree of flexibility. Even more importantly, the board is required to respond within 7 days in such cases. That is real reform, Mr. Speaker. That is responsiveness. That is people-centered governance. Mr. Speaker, the bill also modernizes the institutional framework by clarifying the role and identity of the board responsible for these decisions. And the minister was very clear about that, Mr. Speaker. Call it what it is intended to do. So it's targeted and it will be efficient. It will address the matter with great dexterity. And so I agree 100% with the renaming of the board. It also provides the minister with the authority to amend certain administrative schedules, ensuring flexibility and responsiveness in the system. Like the people say, that is, a few moments ago, we passed some bills dealing with systems to improve how robust we are to prevent unscrupulous behavior. At the same time, we are sensitive to people, the circumstances. We must never become an incubator for just producing criminals. So you committed a crime 20 years ago and you have a stamp on your back. You know that you're a criminal for life. That is not good for society, Mr. Speaker. And this is why I'm excited about this bill. Mr. Speaker, whilst this bill expands access, it also maintains responsibility and order. Applications and reapplication will require the payment of a prescribed fee. However, importantly, the bill provides the minister with the authority, on the recommendation of the board, to grant exemptions from these fees in appropriate cases. Because whilst you are saying you are prescribing justice and you are trying to assist, if somebody does not have the required fee, then the person cannot access what you promise. This is belle-lesh kind of thing. This is papi show. This is magie. We must be able to balance things. And of course, if the intention is to ensure that we have our people to be reintegrated in our society, to be productive citizens, we need to weigh things sometimes on a case-by-case basis. This ensures that the system remains sustainable, but no one is unfairly excluded due to financial hardship. Mr. Speaker, this bill is not just about records. It's about people. It is about reducing habitual relapse into crime, supporting reintegration, strengthening families, and building safer communities. When individuals are given a genuine second chance, they are more likely to gain employment, contribute to the economy, and live law-abiding lives. Now listen to this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, whilst we cannot control people's minds in this country, when people decide to engage in unscrupulous behavior, as a government, what we have done is to give them alternatives. Maybe they engage in some activities that are not that good to bring in some money. We want to discourage that type of practice via the youth economy. Give them an opportunity to gain legitimately so they can take care of their children, they can take care of themselves. We will continue to expand opportunities for our people whilst ensuring that we introduce legislation that will keep criminal activity in check, but at the same time do not punish people for life, like we are gods and we can only pass legislation to oppress. We must deal with criminal activity in a very organized and systematic way. And I've always looked at passing legislation in this way. I recall when I was at Form 5, in Form 5 at the Viewfort Secondary School, I was given a physics question overnight. And I can remember that up to now because at 5 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m., I went to bed after I had resolved that physics question. And the question was, a stone was projected vertically upward. It passed a point M at 5 seconds and again at 6 seconds after projection. Find the initial velocity of the stone and find the height of point M. Now we use V is equal to U plus AT. V is final velocity, U was initial velocity, A was acceleration due to gravity, and T was the time. And I am observing the movement of that stone. And I said, the question is missing something. And it was Fred Isaac from Saltibus who gave me that particular question. And he laughed and he said, the question wasn't missing anything. So I said, you have acceleration due to gravity. You have the time it passed at point M. But you have two other variables that, of course, you do not know, like the initial velocity. And I thought to myself for a while after staying up, and I said, if that stone passed the point M at 5 seconds and again at 6 seconds, it would have gotten to a maximum height and be momentarily at rest. So which means final velocity would be 0. And therefore, you get the third variable and you can easily solve the problem. The point I am making here, Mr. Speaker, is this. When you set in motion legislation to deter criminal activity, it will not just stop criminal activity at once. But when the stone was going up, it decelerated until it got to that maximum point where it stopped. And whilst we are in this house passing legislation day in, day out, and there's still criminal activity in the society, one day it will be like that stone that reached that maximum point and will be momentarily at rest. And we will be a changed society. But we need to be patient as leaders. We need to stay with the journey as leaders, Mr. Speaker, because we must not give up on the young people of this country. They are the ones making us proud on the tracks, Julian Alfred. Why we don't accentuate those positive things? J.D. Manuel in my constituency. we want to define young people by the worst examples. We, as a government, will not do that. We will give them opportunities, we'll enforce the law. We are no nonsense society with zero tolerance for criminal activity, but we must not believe that just going with big guns and shooting people would be a necessary answer. And this is why I respect Prime Minister PJP. He is not of that mindset. He believes in creating the right environment for that march out of poverty, out of mass unemployment, out of criminality will take place. But we must stay with the journey. And we need consistent policies like this one to ensure that we get to that point. And therefore, the people of the country gave this party called the St. Lucia Labour Party a new mandate on the basis of performance, on the basis of where they see we taking this country. And this is why we must continue to be sensitive to national mood, Mr. Speaker. Again, Mr. Speaker, I promise to be brief, and I want to remain loyal to my promises in this honorable House, Mr. Speaker, because it is on the basis of keeping to my promises I got 81.2% of the votes in the People's Republic of Labrie, OJ. They look up to me for compassion and honest purpose and for leadership. And I will continue to come to this House and address myself to the bill, Mr. Speaker. You realize I don't go all over the place and think there's a bill before me. And even when you stop me, Mr. Speaker, when it is part of the bill, I don't misbehave. I subscribe to the posture assumed by my predecessor, Honorable Velon Leo John, who was migrated to the silent continent of eternity. He gave the Speaker before the solemn undertaking that is going to rise to the highest traditions of parliamentary decorum in this honorable House. We as Laborians have absolutely no alternative but to be disciplined and to be respectful and to be precise in this honorable House. So by way of general conclusion, Mr. Speaker, this amendment bill modernizes our approach to rehabilitation. It expands access to second chances. It improves efficiency and responsiveness. It strengthens institutional clarity. And it upholds the dignity of all our citizens. Mr. Speaker, thank you for granting me leave to make this very brief, but I'm hoping a significant intervention. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Home Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, let me just thank the member for Labrie for his very brief intervention to this bill. And let me just
he clearly has an ability for velocity, but not timing.
Yeah, very well.
Honourable members, the question is that the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put a question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as the contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, Cap 3.13.
Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Amendment of Section 2.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Amendment of Section 3.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Amendment of Section 11.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Clause 6.
Amendment of Section 12.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Clause 7.
Amendment of Section 13.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill. Clause 8.
Substitution of Section 19.
Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 9.
Amendment of Section 24.
Clause 9 stands part of the bill. Clause 10.
Amendment of Section 25A.
Clause 10 stands part of the bill. Clause 11.
Repeal of Schedule 4.
Clause 11 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Honourable members, the question is that the committee rises and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honourable members, I beg to report that the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill went through committee stage without amendments. Minister for Home Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and that the bill be read a third time and passed.
Honourable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as have that opinion say aye. As many as have a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the King's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Act 2026.
Minister for Infrastructure.
Stop it. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House stand adjourned. Senate aye.
Honourable members, before I put the motion, I wish to place on record that I had received word from the member for Castries East that he was either going to be very late because there was a competing national event, or if it went on too long, he would not be here. Clearly, the latter is the case, so I want to place that on record. Honourable members, the question is that this House do stand adjourned sine die. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Sitting adjourned.